Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Financial Festivities podcast, hosted by yours truly, Grant Reeves. All right, so I'm very excited. This is something I've been wanting to do for quite a while now. So the objective of this podcast is going to be talking about current events relating to finance and economics, and really just concepts in general, something I'm interested in and want to explore more into depth and kind of give my opinions about. How these episodes are probably going to be structured is I'm going to, at the beginning, give just a general overview of how the markets have been performing over the past week, and then give some sort of quote, throughout the episode and kind of, explain my thoughts on it and how, that influences, my thoughts on investing and things to that extent. And then I'm also gonna, the main thing of the episode is going to be diving into a specific topic. For example, today's episode, we're going to be focusing on Bitcoin and, go really into depth about that and talk about it. So I'm going to try to keep, each episode, relatively short, maybe, 15 minutes, something to that extent. And, we'll see how it goes. I can't promise anything. Sometimes I go off on tangents. And before I get started, I just need to make clear, I am most certainly not a financial expert. I am just, a kid who has my own opinions. I'm not giving financial advice whatsoever. I'm not affiliated with any, organization or anything of that sort. So it's just me giving my opinions. I might, say like I like this or I don't like this, but it's not advice whatsoever. So, trade at your own risk, and I will not be held liable for that. So, all right, hopping right into it. So just a quick market update. Today is September 6th, 2021. It's actually Labor Day. So the market is closed today. So the Dow closed at 35,369.09 points last Friday on September 3rd, putting it down 0.3% on the week. The NASDAQ closed at 15,363.53 points, which put it up 1.3% on the week. So it fared, tech fared better than the Dow did that week. And then the S&P 500 index also did pretty well. It closed at 4,535.43 points on Friday, putting it up just under 0.5% on the week. All right, so hopping right into it. The main topics I'm going to be covering today are, Bitcoin, my thoughts on it, other cryptocurrencies, more specifically Ethereum, and then a federal, digital coin, and talking about how the U.S. Might eventually transition to a purely digital dollar, and finally stablecoins, and why I think they're a type of cryptocurrency that actually holds some merit and will be useful decently into the near future. So I do not like Bitcoin. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not saying there will be zero use for it in the future and it won't, hold any specific niche. But I don't think it's ever going to be useful as a worldwide currency or a currency for a major country. I understand that El Salvador, made it its legal tender, but we'll see how that works. I definitely don't think it would ever be successful as a main currency for a country like the U.S. And I'll get into that. The first problem with Bitcoin is it's just not scalable, and it's currently extremely slow as it is. So currently, Bitcoin only processes about 4.6 transactions per second, which is pretty laughable. So there's absolutely no way an entire world could use that. And the reason that is because it operates on a proof of work system, which is part of its protocol that was implemented with the blockchain. So along with participants, processing and validating transactions, they also have to have their computers run a complex hash function, which takes a considerable amount of energy and time. So that kind of is the reason why it slows down the transaction speed. And part of the problem with transaction speeds, aside from it just not being convenient for the entire world to use, is the fact that mixed with Bitcoin's volatility, is the fact that at one point, let's say, you agree to do some sort of transaction with someone with Bitcoin, and it takes a couple of minutes for the transaction to actually process. By the time it does process, the person receiving Bitcoin might actually receive, although the same amount of Bitcoin, it might be worth considerably less. So the person got away with paying for something, and not basically getting it way cheaper, because by the time the process occurred, the value of Bitcoin dropped a significant amount, because Bitcoin's price does move up and down a considerable amount throughout the day. And then comparing it to something like Visa, obviously we all know what Visa is. It's one of the world's largest credit card companies. So they operate at up to 1,700 transactions a second on average, and they can operate at way higher. That's just that's just with the how often they, just the average of it. And then usually they process up to 150 million transactions a day. So obviously Visa is by far superior to Bitcoin in that regard. However, I'm not saying there aren't solutions. There have been several proposed solutions to this problem, one of which is the Bitcoin Lightning Network, which is something that's been proposed, which would be added to the Bitcoin protocol. It would utilize something known as smart contracts to allow for additional transactions to occur kind of outside of the blockchain itself via micropayment channels. And this would, significantly improve Bitcoin. It would allow for them to scale up to several, transactions a second more compared to what they currently do. However, it's just a theory. I don't believe it's been implemented, and there are several cons with that as well as pros. So, it's mainly a theory, or it's not a theory, but it hasn't been applied, so we haven't been able to see, if its effectiveness is correct. Along with a Bitcoin scalability problem, another problem I had with it, which I'm sure you're more familiar with, it's been mentioned in the news more often, is that it's just straight up bad for the environment, like pretty bad for the environment. And just aside from that, it uses a whole ton of energy, which people believe could be served better in other places. So, a couple of surprising statistics for you. Bitcoin currently, this is their annualized power consumption, so it does change, but I just checked, and currently the Bitcoin network requires 93 terawatt hours of energy annually. And kind of just to give you some context, Finland, Kazakhstan, the Philippines, and the Netherlands, not all combined, but all those countries use less energy than Bitcoin. And that angers some people because they see Bitcoin and it's just an experiment. It's not a proven concept whatsoever. People don't know at what scale it will be used at or operated with on the future, and they see it taking up all this energy, and they think I think this energy could be better allocated towards services we know already help people. We have no idea if Bitcoin is going to be able to help people, so what we may as well use this energy that's better served in other places. There's several people who don't have great access to energy, so we may as well use the energy more efficiently. And as well as that, along with just a lot of Bitcoin using a lot of energy in general, some of the energy is probably not clean energy. So for those of you who do not know, the majority of Bitcoin mining occurs in China. I want to say just over 65% of it occurs in China, and they use a lot of coal in China. It's a pretty readily available resource, which is all good and stuff, except coal is quite bad for the environment. So since the majority of mining occurs in China, where coal is used, I definitely don't think the majority of my energy used with Bitcoin mining is clean energy. And getting back to the China aspect of it, the Chinese government as well has shown their disdain for Bitcoin in general multiple times. I'd assume because Bitcoin allows people to exchange funds anonymously, and China is a rather authoritarian state, so they'd like to see what their citizens are doing. So, people are worried that since the majority of Bitcoin mining occurs in China, the government might, at some point take over that mining process. Therefore, making Bitcoin centralized, defeating the whole entire purpose of it being a decentralized network, not controlled by any country. However, again, there are solutions for this. There's something known as the proof of stake, which differs from proof of work because the complicated hash functions are not required, so the computers will not be using as much energy in that regard. Bitcoin currently does not use it. There have to be a complete change to the protocol to allow for proof of stake, which I doubt will happen. So that's probably one of the biggest solutions. There are other cryptocurrencies that utilize proof of stake. I think Ethereum is testing out proof of stake, not on the Ethereum network itself, but another network. However, the problem of scalability and environmental impact. If all of those problems found solutions, I still think Bitcoin would be a no go as a widespread use currency for this main problem, and that Bitcoin is not malleable whatsoever. The currency was designed to be deflationary. There will only ever be a certain set of Bitcoin ever in the world. I think it's set to be 21 million Bitcoins. I think that won't occur until 2140. So, it's well off over 100 years in the future. However, currently Bitcoin is released daily. So new Bitcoin is created all the time, but it's not regulated or managed by anybody whatsoever. It's part of the protocol. So, um, you know, all these people participating in the Bitcoin network, they allocate their computer power to help, process transactions and validate them. And after they, complete that hash function, or which is basically just luck, which takes a lot of computer power, they receive Bitcoin as a reward. However, that's just part of the protocol. So no single entity or person could control Bitcoin being distributed. And while some people think that's a good thing because they believe therefore Bitcoin would be prone to inflation, I completely disagree. For one reason, I think inflation and deflation of a currency is useful at times. For example, look at the U.S. government. So we all know COVID, that was a huge problem. It's still a huge problem. And that just, shook the world both economically, including the U.S. So what did the Federal Reserve do? They increased the money supply. They printed more money, which lowered interest rates, which, worked to help people consume more and help the economy grow. And, that worked in some respect. And it's been proven to work in the past. The monetary policy, has been, in effect for quite a while now. However, what that requires is that the money supply can change. So you need to be able to create new US dollars and at times, take out US dollars when the economy is heating up too much, leading to potentially an inflationary gap. But with Bitcoin, you can't do that. So if the US ever adopted Bitcoin as its main currency, if we ever came across economic disability in terms of a depression or even too much of economic boom to a point where inflation was rampant, there's absolutely nothing we could do because you can't affect the supply of Bitcoin. So in my opinion, inflation is needed as well as an overall valuable currency because as economic times change, you need your currency to change as well, and Bitcoin does not allow for that. So that's overall why I don't like Bitcoin. Some people ask me, you don't like Bitcoin. Is there any cryptocurrency you do like? All right, this is where I'm going to start talking about Ethereum. I like Ethereum a little better just for one main reason. Sorry. That's just because it facilitates smart contracts. And I think smart contracts, will have several useful applications in the future. And they already serve, useful applications right now. I think smart contracts could be used to kind of make a more secure voting system in the United States, in which your vote, as long as the information with it would be secure, and therefore voting could be done more accurately. As well as that, I think smart contracts could be utilized in the healthcare industry in terms of being able to, get your, sensitive healthcare documents from whoever holds them, and doing that in a safe manner. I think it could also be utilized in the supply chain in terms of their paperwork and contracts, making that more mainstream system as well. So, financial services and things like that. So I'm not going to speculate on Ethereum's price and whether or not I like it. I do like Ethereum because of the smart contracts, though. It's not that I love Ethereum because Ethereum's Ethereum. I just love the idea of smart contracts and think that would be extremely, useful and prevalent in the future. So moving on from Bitcoin and Ethereum, you guys know how I feel about that. Now we're going to move on to talking about the Federal Reserve turning the US dollar completely digital and, phasing out all, cash, paper money, making all money digital and the effects of that. So why do that? There are multiple reasons why, changing the US dollar to completely digital would be beneficial. One of which would be it would allow for tax returns to be issued back to citizens far faster. Currently, you have to your tax returns go through institutions, and then they have to go through the mail, and then they have to come back to you. But if all dollars were made digital, the government could just literally directly send your money to your phone or device, instantaneously. That doesn't just go for, tax returns either. It also goes for stimulus checks. So obviously, some people can attest to the fact that stimulus checks took forever to come. But if the dollar went digital, it'd be an instant process as well. So those are some of the benefits. Some things that would not be benefits in some people's eyes is that a digital dollar would allow the U.S. government to literally track exactly what and when you were buying things, all the time. And some people might believe that, the government probably already does that. So what's the big deal? But I guarantee you there are a ton of people who would not be in favor of that. That's one of the negatives. Some people might be slightly confused and be like, well, I already thought the dollar was digital in some regard. We use debit cards and credit cards. Although that is, I guess, using digital money in some respects, when you're actually putting your card into the machine and paying for something, you're not literally exchanging dollars. You're just kind of exchanging agreements to actually like exchange dollars at a later date. So the actual dollar itself is not, minted on some sort of digital file whatsoever yet. And that's what the change would be. And now moving kind of onto the final topic, which I can tie to that, is that of stablecoins. So stablecoins are a type of cryptocurrency that are far less volatile than, let's say, Bitcoin, because they are backed up by certain commodities or currencies, thus the term stablecoin. So, for example, one of the two largest stablecoins that are backed up by the U.S. dollar are Tether, which some of you might have heard of, and U.S. dollar coin. So, why is that important? Well, these coins could be used, in the future, if and or when the government decides to make the dollar go completely digital. So if an individual did not want the government knowing exactly what they were buying, they could just exchange their digital US dollars issued by the Federal Reserve on some sort of exchange and just buy something like Tether, and which is worth basically exactly one coin. So it's really no different. The only difference is the government would not be able to track what you spend with Tether. So that's the usefulness I see in Tether and other stablecoins, is that if the U.S. ever went digital in terms of its dollar, then people would be able to still establish a sense of anonymity, and be able to spend without the government knowing exactly what they were doing, which is very appealing to many people. So that's really all I wanted to cover today. I'm not going to encourage people to buy Bitcoin, short Bitcoin, or find an instrument to bet against Bitcoin whatsoever. If you really want to buy Bitcoin, I would just kind of, urge you to be careful. Try to limit it to, 5 to 10% of your portfolio max, and just be careful. So before I end this episode, I'm kind of going to give you guys, although I am young, I do kind of believe I have some sort of outlook on investing and what the right way of doing it is, just from, reading, watching people speak and that sort of thing. So I most certainly believe that value investing is the best strategy in guaranteeing that you make returns in the long run. So I agree with the likes of, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and, Peter Lynch, those types of guys. I don't really think there are any shortcuts to making money in the stock market. I don't believe in day trading, swing trading, or anything like that. Penny stocks, absolutely not. I will never talk about penny stocks in a positive light or encourage you guys to buy or sell any. Absolutely not. So I'm going to end it with a quote from Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's second-hand man at Berkshire Hathaway. He once said that the big money is not in the buying or selling, but in the waiting. And I think that kind of just attests to the stock market, in value investing and, investing in the long term, in terms of, looking at a company's fundamentals and buying their stock and holding them for decades and decades and decades. I think Buffett once said that, a really good investor shouldn't mind if the stock market's open tomorrow or even open for the next, 10 years, because it shouldn't matter. If you're investing for value and for the long term, you're not going to need to make a lot of trades in your life. You're just going to need to make the initial trades in the companies you truly believe in and to see how it pans out over the decades. So, I probably won't recommend too many stocks, or we'll see. But if I could recommend just one safe investment for everybody, regardless if you're interested in finance or not, it would just be simply investing in a market ETF like this S&P 500 index fund. It's been known to return, 7 to 8% annually for, the longest time ever. It's extremely safe. The market is essentially rigged to go up. The way these indices work is that they're constantly putting in new companies. So over time, if companies aren't doing well, they're going to replace them with newer, better companies. So essentially, the reason the index continue to do well is because they're rigged to do so. The best companies that make up America, the biggest and best, are always being added and removed, things of that nature. So I think that's your safest bet. That's probably really the only thing I would encourage you to buy. It's always not financial advice, but that's something I truly believe in. So that's my 2 cents. That's kind of my outlook. I'm sure, it might change at some point in the future because I'm still young, but that's how I feel right now about investing in the stock market. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you join me on the next episode. See you then.